I wanted to open up the conversation about how women are seen, valued, and made to feel in pop culture and within their professional industries.
Shout out to the women of the world, bounce your necks.
As a woman, have you ever experienced gender discrimination within your professional industry?
Yeah, I think like speak to any woman, they've probably had something similar. It's kind of the little things, I think, like there's nothing huge, but it's like when you take a sort of step back, it's the little comments, it's the little not like digs, but just the kind of, you notice the language used. So I, for instance, if I turn up to a gig with my manager, but he's not necessarily like introduced himself or anything, and they've had all contact with me, they'll still speak to him. And like I went to a gig where he was just there as my friend, just chilling and watching, and they were talking to him about plugging the PA. He was like, I don't know, it's Eleri, you need to talk to, it's not me. So little things like that. Also, we did a workshop with an amazing songwriter a few years ago, and she does other sort of similar things like running workshops. And we had a workshop in a venue, and the venue owner wouldn't let her use the microphone without. I don't know I don't know quite what it was that he wouldn't let her use it, but he was like, "Oh, you can't touch it until I've sorted this out," even though he had no idea about how to do sound, and she was a sound engineer.
Basically, just assuming that she wouldn't have that technical knowledge because
Yeah.
she was female.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
So even though the whole workshop was about women in like sound engineering and technology and songwriting, so it was just so ironic that in that setting, and that's one that really springs to mind for me.
So do you kind of feel that for you, it's kind of experienced through the narrative used in how people can communicate with you at live events or during the process of booking your events?
Yeah, I think it's just the like assumption that you don't quite know what you're doing. Like like, do you need help with setting this up? And it's like, I do this every weekend. Like I do this twice a week. Every week it's my equipment. I know exactly what I'm doing. Leave me to it. And even like carrying things, sometimes people are trying to be nice, but it is just a bit like, you don't know what you're doing. You're probably drunk, respectfully, and you can't plug in an XLR cable because you have never seen one before. But by all means, give it a go. But obviously, like, you don't want people to touch your equipment and anything like that. So it's just the little assumptions, I think, that you don't quite know what you're doing.
How does that make you feel?
Just kind of makes you feel really like infantilized and patronized, angry as well. I get really angry when people assume I can't do something.
Do you ever respond to that then? Do you kind of like let people know, I know what I'm doing, I'm perfectly capable?
I'd say like I always like try and be polite. Obviously, you don't know who anyone is or whatever, but I'd just say like, no, it's all right, I'm fine. I know what I'm doing. I can set it up myself.
That's really good, because I often find that a lot of women feel that they can't kind of come back, and respond, or they're not confident to, because they're sometimes met with, oh, you're just being angry, or
Yeah,
stop being stressy.
I've definitely noticed that. Like, I feel like I'm quite good at really calmly letting people know things, but I've definitely like, I can understand how someone would like justifiably get frustrated, and then it's like, oh, all right, no need to overreact about that. And it's like, I'm just reacting normally.
I'm just communicating back that I know my shit.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So is there anything that you haven't done or don't do because you are a woman? And that can be wider than just your professional industry.
I think there's things I'm definitely more hesitant to do. Like, so I don't know if it's being a woman or just being like, you don't want to put anyone out, or maybe that's a female thing, I don't know. But like asking for things at like gigs, or like when they ask for a sort of tech rider, catering rider, anything like that, I'd be like, oh, I don't need anything, it's fine. I don't know if that is because I'm a woman, or like a man would be like, yeah, I'm fine with asking for X, Y, and Z, but I'm like, oh no, I don't need. And like my manager will always be like, well, you need water, and like maybe like you need orange juice in case your blood sugar goes low. And I feel like, okay, if I can't ask for that, like that's my responsibility. But then obviously they've asked you to, have some requests, so it's a sort of balance there.
So do you think, again, that might be a bit of a lack of a confidence thing, of feeling like you can completely professionally present yourself because you're already going in with that, I don't want to bother anyone kind of?
Yeah, I think it is that, and like sort of apologetic before you've even started for no reason kind of attitude. And yeah, maybe that is a kind of female trait, I think, to be really accommodating and not put anyone else out ever.
Absolutely. So Is there one thing that you feel that we could do to help change this situation and change this narrative?
I always think a lot of it's to do with, so like when you approach anything with about sexism, and especially talking to men, they'll always go like, but the statistics say that actually, I mean, in somewhere, and the statistics are bad as well, but it'd be like, the statistics say there's no gender pay gap, like there's no this, there's no sexism because this law came into place that says this. And it's like, okay, maybe there is a law, maybe there is some good stats, but on an attitude level, person to person, that isn't there. And a lot of it's kind of really hard to prove anything that's happened because it's so like, oh, I got this tone that just felt like patronizing. And it's like, oh, did you? Or like, you just making stuff up. I always think you have to start with yourself. And I think building women's confidence up is easier than probably than changing men's behavior as a starting point. So maybe coming in with that sort of confidence. And I've run songwriting workshops in the past, and a lot of it's based on like, just be confident that you know that you can go into a room and stand your ground and not be like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing, even because you do. You know, if you've done a bit of production, then cool, like you've done a bit of production, you know, like the basics, or you know the basics of songwriting, and that's valid as well. So I think building up women's confidence to stand their ground in situations will hopefully kind of have an impact on the male behavior or the sexist behavior that we often get. But it's a long road, I think.
I think that's really good advice, because accountability is so key in terms of, you know, if we go into rooms and we're acting unconfident and we're being awkward, often we're met with like a, you know, an awkward response because
Yeah.
we're potentially making people around us feel uncomfortable or concerned, you
Yeah.
know. And it's interesting that you say, you know, perhaps it should start with us as women, because I actually agree with you, because I think when I was growing up and, you know, developing myself as a music artist, I think I subconsciously fell into playing a part in a male dominated room, you know, because I knew I would be received better. And on reflection now, I wish I hadn't behaved in that way, you know. And I'm just talking about things like maybe being a little bit extra flirty, or just falling into that kind of, you know, female vocalist role.
Yeah,
You know, and I think we have to be mindful as well. You know, it's one thing for us to ask to create change, but also our behavior and contribution to making that change is really important.
definitely. I think starting from yourself is the most empowering thing, because it doesn't feel like you can't do anything about it, because you can start somewhere. And if that's starting with your own behaviors and your own like awareness of how you come across.
Yeah, I totally agree. And do you have one sentence, a nice bit of advice for other women and marginalized genders that are watching our interview today?
I think it's about acting confident, and I've stolen this from another influencer, a fitness influencer, but I'm going to say it anyway. And it's act confident, and no one will question you.